Here we're looking at breach interception analysis, and this essentially is an inverse of the possession analysis. One of the big criticisms I would make of general GA analysis is that analysts, and for the most part I would say managers too, they tend to spot everything that goes on when your team have the ball, but they tend not to evaluate things just so much in terms of what happens when the other team have the ball. This basically accounts for every time, I won't say every time one of your players is beaten, every time somebody gets behind one of your players. That is to say, either they've been beaten, a breach won, or somebody's got in behind them without having to beat them, which actually is worse. It's also to some extent a response to an en vogue statistic that we would consider here at GA Pro Stats not alone to be useless but to be counterproductive. That is taking statistics on tackles and interceptions and blocks. The problem with that is that when statistics became big in soccer around 15 or 20 years ago, somebody at AC Milan realised that Paolo Maldini, widely regarded to be the best defender in history, was making one tackle every 2 games. Furthermore, they were realising that there was no relationship between how many tackles were made and results. And you'll see here in our overall table, which we'll look at in a minute, Slough-Nail, who gave an extremely efficient defensive performance against Killie in the Ulster semi-final. They had a total of 2 dispossessions and 1 interception the whole game, and they conceded 8 points. So straight away you'll see that as a standalone, that piece of information on its own really doesn't tell you a huge amount. So if we go over here to our chart, we'll see that we have 5 possibilities. There's a breach grade 1. That basically means that a player has taken you on and beaten you. A breach grade 2 means they've got inside you on the ball without having to take you on. That means somebody hasn't chased back, somebody hasn't been quick enough to track or to turn, and essentially they're far more culpable and frequently more missable from a viewing eye than the grade 1s. Then you've got a foul where you foul the player. You've got a dispossession, which is to say you've taken the ball from the possession of a player, or an interception, which basically means where you've intercepted a pass, be it a kick pass, a hand pass, or in hurling, a block. So with that, let's look at a particularly interesting one here in the 46th minute between Slough-Nail and Killie, and it will give us a good example of 2 or 3 different pieces we're looking at here. So you'll see straight away this is a grade 1 breach for the simple reason here that the cornerback here, Francis McEldowney, he's facing the number 22, he's taken on and he's beaten. So that's a straight up breach grade 1. Now there's also a grade 2 in this clip, and you're going to see it, and it could easily go missed. It's quite subtle on this viewing. You'll see here this man tries to take the ball, but he had got a man on the shoulder. He has just got out of picture. But if we look here, we'll see the key piece of analysis here is these maroon socks here against these blue socks. The maroon socks are goal side, but watch what happens as it goes on. We'll see the red boots have got inside, and as we'll see, here's the danger man. He's got a yard or 2 inside his man who was behind him. That's absolutely, definitely a grade 2 breach. So with that, let's assume, let's have a look at that grade 2 breach, the grade 1 breach for example. So we'll go to that. I'm going to delete that just so you can see how it works. So at this point we'd say, we'd be watching the video, and we'd say, right, that's definitely a grade 2 breach, a grade 1 breach at this stage. So we'd simply press breach grade 1, and you'll see there it gets logged into the timeline here. And if you want to go back at any stage, again we can do the video up here, but at any stage we go back, that will go back to whatever few seconds before the action we have chosen. Again, we'll move on and we'll see very quickly here that essentially the number 10 here does lose the ball, but we don't count it as a dispossession or an interception because he's actually handed the ball away. For it to be a dispossession, we would say the ball was taken from the player. For an interception, it's a block. Though there is merit in what the 2 defenders have done here, the 5 and the 7, in turning him over. He has, as you see, basically passed the ball away. So that wouldn't be regarded statistically as an interception or a dispossession. We'll move on here and we'll have a quick look at a dispossession. we have here Carl McCaig in the first minute. So you'll see here, the ball is played in, his man has possession, and there you go, there's a textbook dispossession. We'll look back again here at Carl Feeney. Find the interception here is just a textbook block. So you'll see it here again. Keely Clogher in possession. And that's an interception. Again, as a standalone statistic, something I wouldn't consider of massive value, but weighed up against your breaches, it's quite significant. Then we've got a foul, is basically if a player is running at you and you stop them with a foul. And you'll see here again, the basic point of this is, broadly speaking, it's intended to analyse your capacity to stop a player who's running at you. In this case, Bradley was basically going to be beaten and he's fouled him. There's not a massive economic cost to that foul. In fact, there may not be any economic cost at all, but it is marked because basically he failed to stop the player. There is one final interesting one here to look at, and it's Chrissy McCaig here in the 30th minute. Now this is an interesting one because it is marked. As I say, broadly speaking, the point of this analysis is to analyse the capacity of a player to stop players running at them. However, as you'll see here, McCaig has this player turned, but as he moves away, he is fouled. So I'm going to show you what we can do there. Again, I'm going to delete the original piece of information and we're going to put it in now. So we're going to say that was a foul. However, because he was running away from goal, it doesn't actually encompass what we would consider this piece of analysis for. So you can right click here and it gives you an option, do not count, and to enter a comment. There's two textbook ones here we have in already. Enter a comment, foul the man running away from goal, no cost. Now the key thing you'll see here is you have the option at the end of the game to count all or not. If you count it all, if you see here, come across CMC, Chrissy McCaig, if you see at the moment count all, his breach total is 2. Now we take away count all and his breach total has gone down to 1. So you'll see there's the entire value of the piece of information. And again, the final chart is quite telling because you'll see here Carl Feeney, he's playing wing back and he hasn't been breached at all. Now in the typical kind of analysis that we're used to hearing about, there'd actually be no regard made for that, but as you see here, that's actually quite telling. Same thing, Chrissy McCaig, he's playing centre back, he's only been breached once. They're quite telling figures. Again, if you have a player being breached quite a lot, breach 1, it alludes to either maybe a pace issue, a tactical defending issue. If you have a breach grade 2 coming in a lot, again, you're talking about maybe it's know-how, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's desire to track back. You don't know. But again, as opposed to just taking your dispossessions and interceptions, they are weighed up here. So as I say, you have Shane McGuigan here. He hasn't made any interceptions or dispossessions, but he hasn't been taken on and beaten either. So all in all, I would consider that to be more admirable than somebody who had maybe made one interception but been taken on and beaten 10 times.